Welcome along to Nailtopia, Inside with the Insiders. I'm Rachel. In this podcast, we're going to talk to some of the nail industry's biggest and brightest. But I want to get to know the real them. I want to know their real stories. So come with me as we take a peek behind the curtain. Today, I'm talking to my very good friend, Kerry Wright. Kerry is the South Yorkshire CJP educator. Tell us all about yourself, Kerry.
That's everything.
Now I know that's not true. Tell us about how you got into the nail industry then, because for those of us out there that don't know, could you explain to us how that nickname came about?
So in 2017, I believe, I had a cardiac arrest and I was officially dead for 30 minutes. I actually meant to write the statistics down for that. So I think it's 9% of people survive a cardiac arrest.
Wow.
And then the main reason for them surviving a cardiac arrest is by having someone perform CPR immediately.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough that I had my husband. I shouldn't have. He was due to have an appointment that day and it got cancelled. So if he had that appointment, I wouldn't be here now. So yeah, that's how my nickname came about.
And it's caused quite a few lasting problems for you, hasn't it? I mean, you've come and taught at Utopia with me, and you always preempt a class having to explain that things might not flow as easily in your speech and you might get your words mixed up. Are you very aware now of those differences than before?
Education to people, and it's got to be accurate and everything, but I think by informing people prior and they don't think they've heard it right, they've probably heard it right, and then obviously it just gives me reasons to adapt on that, but it makes me very self-conscious of it. The people around me are great, they're aware of it and they'll just automatically correct me, but obviously somebody who doesn't know me doesn't know that. So I think it's my duty of care really to just explain to people that my speech sometimes stutters, I can get my words mixed up, but luckily nails for me is like riding a bike.
Muscle memory.
So yeah, it's never really left me, and because again I'm a hands-on learner, it just absorbs better than like written words or verbal information. So I'm very lucky that it hasn't affected me on that side. It affects me more when I'm tired. So obviously when I'm teaching, I know that I have to obviously go to bed early and try and get a good night's sleep and stuff, and it doesn't affect as much. But as the day goes on, I do see how it gets worse. And
obviously you said you've got you had a little girl back then, you've got quite a few now. You're an extended nuclear family. Do you find that being in this particular industry has helped in being a parent? It's giving you the freedom to be there for, you said your daughter had been ill when she was younger, but she still has a few problems now. And do you find that the nail industry is giving you the opportunity that you feel like it's giving you the opportunity to be there more for her and for the rest of your family?
Yes and no. So obviously with Lacey being deaf, she has to obviously have a lot of hospital appointments. So obviously the flexibility of it works. But at the same time, you're at risk of upsetting clients by obviously having to juggle them about because the appointments can come out last minute. And then obviously because of what happened with my cardiac arrest, the children also have to be monitored now because they can't find a cause for my cardiac arrest. So they monitor them to ensure that they don't, see if they can pick an arrhythmias or anything up. So yeah, it's flexible and I get to go to the school concerts and stuff like that, which is obviously better by being a nail technician to go around it, but obviously the hospital appointments by law anyway, I think any employee has to give you the time off for your children's appointments. So but for the sports day and the Christmas concerts and stuff, yeah, it's fab that I don't miss out on that, and I can pick when I want time off, if I want the weekends off, or I tend to just have the school holidays off. It's just easier because Jacob's still only 5. So it's just not easy to work around, particularly like we said with my mental state now. I can't focus on him and nails.
Yeah. You're as I introduced you at the start, you're the South Yorkshire CJP educator. Let's talk about how that happened, because I know, like myself, you were an early adopter of CJP. Do you want to tell us how all that came about?
I was well known enough or within the right circles for that. But I think I tried CJP 2016. I was just coming off my maternity leave, and I was seeing obviously it being advertised. And I think it was later that year, Gemma actually approached me and asked if I wanted to be an educator. And I remember it clear as day. It was like 11 o'clock at night, because that's when she's always on social media. And I ran up, my husband had gone to bed, and I ran upstairs and jumping up and down bed going, guess what? I'm like, what do I say? Like, even now looking back at the nails from then, I'm like, what was she thinking? We've always, obviously, as we know in the industry, you're always improving and getting better. But yeah, I'm like, wow, they weren't great. But I suppose at that time, maybe that was the standards that everyone were at. The nail game was just getting higher and higher.
Yeah, the advent of social media and the pros and cons of social media, with how other techs are now supporting each other, and how during this pandemic it's managed to get our voice out there. How do you feel social media impacts on you as a self-employed tech and as an educator?
It's great because it gets, obviously, you out there, but there's just so many to compete with. It's like when having a business before, you rely on word of mouth and all that, and that is always been my main, way of getting clients. I've never ever really advertised, but there's definitely a lot of competition, and it's just see my brain's going now. It's great because, like you say, everybody is coming together, and it's such a nice community, because I think at one point it got quite a nasty community, and I actually don't go in a lot of groups because everybody has their favorite brand and everything, and everybody has their opinions on it. And for me, you give your opinion on why you like it, and then move on and not get into all the drama of it. Only recently I've started going back into the groups, obviously, part of my job, but it is really nice to see how everybody's coming together. And I think, I'm hoping the standards of the industry are going to get raised, and it's not just anybody can do it. And
the idea that's coming through now is this idea of the industry being regulated. Do you think that's important?
I think it's really important, because it is really infuriating when, well, I've just actually answered a question on somewhere, and they just do it on themselves, and she's like, can I still buy the product? But even if you're doing it yourself, you should still be qualified. There's so much more to nails. My husband always says to me, he thought I was going back to college to do stick-on nails. He didn't realise how much we're involved, and then the contraindications and everything like that. And not all courses do it. I was very lucky. Like the course I did were very, very old-fashioned and not up to date with, Apex and application and stuff. But I will be forever grateful for all the contraindications, the health and safety,
the anatomy and physiology,
the anatomy, all of that. I can't, that is my godsend. And I see so many people commenting, and they don't even know what onychomycosis or something looks like. And that's just a simple thing that's quite often you see. And it's scary knowing that they're either diagnosing, they're treating it, putting products on it, and they don't know. So it definitely needs to be regulated 100%. And so just like the products as well.
Definitely. I mean, we as an industry battle against the MMA versus MME controversy, and the fact that most other countries have got it banned, and we haven't banned it, that our government are allowing these products to be used in open market. It's quite scary, and quite a lot of the brands out there are now battling against this, trying to get it out there that we're a professional only brand. And I think this is only good for our industry. This can only be good for our industry. The idea that where you, like you said, you started, your dad bought you a gel kit, that your career possibly wouldn't have happened if you hadn't have had that gel kit and found your little passion for it. But on the other hand, we as professionals were like, why are people buying gel kits from Argos? Oh my God, you damage. We have customers, especially during these lockdown times, ringing us and texting us and messaging us, and they're all, if I buy a little kit, how do I put it on? How do I take it off? And we're like screaming in our heads, oh my God, don't do that. You're going to cause damage. But I'm with you. We definitely need to be regulated. We definitely need products, because we get this all the time, don't we? When you're talking to somebody that isn't aware of it, you tell them what you do, and they make the joke, oh, you're only a nail tech. Then they say, oh no, I wouldn't have acrylic nails, it damages your nails. No, it doesn't damage your nails. You get that raging moment. And I think if we were regulated, I think the world would see us differently, would see us the same way they see hairdressers and the same way they see estheticians and the likes, that actually we're not just a load of people that have sat in his living room with a load of nail polishers painting his nails and suddenly are charging 28 quid for it, but that we're actually professionals, highly trained. We know about anatomy and physiology, and we're not hobbyists anymore, a hobby job rather than a career. Do you feel that people are starting to see the beauty industry and the nail industry in a lot more of a professional way?
I'm not quite sure. I think because I'm a home tech, I've worked from home, particularly because I've worked in my kitchen, I've worked in my living room. I think when I worked like that, our hobbyists, and you don't feel like you can charge your worth and stuff like that. And obviously now I have the cabin in the garden, it's a bit more of a salon base, and I do have my clients that'll tell me that I should charge more, but then you put your prices up and you lose clients and stuff. Some of my clients do respect me, and they understand that it is a business, and because it is hard being a nail tech, not to become your clients' friends. But during the lockdown, I don't feel like I have the support from the non-nail community, because they do see it as a hobby, and they'll just presume you get the grants and everything else and the cease. And for me, the years that fell, I had my cardiac arrest, I had a year off having my son, and my dad died, so I barely earned that year. So I'm hoping from all this, the government will start seeing us. And I know there's a lot going off behind the scenes to try and get the government to realise we're not just a leisure for people, it is a career. I understand that it is, like, obviously, it's not an essential for people in their everyday spending, but it kind of has become like that, because the way social media and everything's changed, everybody's expected to look a certain way, have the nails done. So we are becoming essential. So I hope that we are seen in a better light, because I do get it myself. And I find when I introduce myself, or people say, what do you do? I'll go, oh, I'm a nail technician and I'm an educator. Yeah. Because I want to get in that I'm not just a nail tech, because that's the stigma that we've been given.
It's a lot. I've heard this a lot, when I've been talking to people over the last couple of weeks, this idea that people, when you introduce yourself, that a lot of people have had the return phrase back to them as being, oh, you're just a nail tech. And I joked with Helen Crane, it's along the same lines offensively as when someone says, oh, you're just a mum. It's like people don't realise when the level of expertise and knowledge that we have to have as an industry, that we're not just, in inverted commas, a nail tech. And when somebody sits and watches you work, quite often I get, oh crikey, there's a lot more to it than I thought.
Yeah, and I think for me as well is, I think it's our responsibility as a nail technician with our clients to educate as clients, especially when I get new clients. A lot of the time they do come from the non-standard salons. So I'm straight in there explaining what they've had on the nails, how bad they are. It took me well over a year to try and get a client. She had really severe nail separation, and it's took me a long time so that she's clear of it. But I remember the first time she sat down with me, I said, I can't put anything on that. I said, you need them removing, and she refused to have them removed and threatened to go back. So then you have no choice but to educate. And she has learned, and she won't go back now. And obviously a lot of my clients as well are interested in being trained as a nail technician. Obviously they know I'm going to be doing the beginners courses soon, so they all want to come on that. And I'm like, there's a lot more than you think. I remember when I come back with my manual from college and I put it down on the table, and I could have cried and said to my husband, I can't do this, I'm not smart enough, because I didn't realise, I probably walked in with that idea of you're just applying product. I didn't realise all the science behind it, and like even learning what the chemicals are, the chemical names, how they react, why they react. Like obviously if a client's put the nail in a lamp or they're getting a heat spike from the acrylic or gel, it's our job to educate the clients.
So obviously this is Inside with the Insiders, and I wanted to try and get a little bit more personal with everybody, and we've obviously spoke about some difficult subjects, but you spoke back then about that year before the pandemic, that the tax year would fall, that you didn't earn very much, that you'd had your coronary episode, you were on maternity leave, and sadly you lost your father. You've spoke to me openly, and if you're happy to continue talking about it, how it's affected your mood, and having had counselling, I don't know whether PTSD or whatever. Are you happy to talk about how it's affected you emotionally and how you're coping?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, obviously, people, like we always said, people will see what they want you to see on social media, and obviously as a professional, it's not my job to post all my emotions on Facebook, and they don't see the underside. And again, that's the frustrating thing, when you see people getting angry and upset that they're not achieving or progressing like they are. They don't realize what blood, sweat and tears it takes, and the personal stuff you go through, because I obviously a lot use that as an excuse, and I'm not saying, you know, I did this, and everybody can do it, everybody deals differently. And after my dad died, he was my best friend. He's the one that would calm me down and talk me through things. He's the only person I'd listen to. And he had cancer, and it was hard. It turned him into a nasty person. And you know, obviously there was other personal issues going on within the family that I was trying to keep together, and it took a massive toll. And on top of that, obviously you have your clients spilling their problems on you. And I think it was just before, well, I was asking for help. I went to my doctors because I suffered with PTSD. It come to clarity that I had anxiety. And then on top of that, my husband also suffered with PTSD because obviously he witnessed me die and had to bring me back. And he was suicidal. So I had that to deal with. And then whilst my dad was obviously terminal with cancer, and then because obviously he got the all clear first, and then it came back twice as bad, twice as hard and all that. And it was at the base of his tongue. So obviously near the end, he couldn't particularly speak anymore. Well, you couldn't really understand him. So that was hard on us all. But yeah, after he died and picking up other family members, well, his, you know, like his wife and whatever, it came too much. And I think it was March last year, I could have probably ended my own life. I rang the doctors because I used to be a self-harmer when I was a teenager. And it were never obviously to kill myself, but it was a release, and I could feel that, and I've never done it since. And I could feel that urge to do it again. And that's when I rang the doctors for help. But it's so hard getting the help. I remember walking out of my cabin one night finishing work, and I could have just fell to my knees. I just had enough. So you, as well as, you know, dealing with your own stuff, you have your clients' problems on top of that, because you are the therapist in a way. And that was my argument when people say, when they were all going off in the government, you know, the hospitality, the leisure. We're people's therapists. We're not, fair enough. We don't have a medical license in it or whatever, but we help people on a daily basis. And it just got too much. And I just kept getting turned down for therapy. And it was only when I went to my GP, he actually started putting the referrals in for me, because you have to do your referrals yourself now.
Oh, right.
And he started doing them for me and said that I weren't stable enough and I need it. But because of my heart as well, because they don't know what's wrong with it, they wouldn't give me any medication, because I suffer from night terrors. Again, when you try and tell people what it's like, it's the most scariest thing in the world. And when I have my night terrors, they're like a night terror within a night terror. I'm conscious of it. So it's even more scarier. So obviously the lack of sleep, gets to me and stuff like that. But they won't medicate me for anything. They eventually got me on IAPS services, but they only deal with one thing.
Yeah.
So for me, I had PTSD, I had anxiety, I had the odd panic attack, I was suffering severe grief. I was so ready to just drop everything and leave my family and leave my job. I just didn't want to deal with it. The IAPS eventually helped, but unfortunately I didn't get along with the therapist. So I actually quit it. And I did see a massive improvement. So anybody who's suffering with that, obviously try and push for that, but it just wasn't for me, or the therapist wasn't for me. Even though I'm quite abrupt and speak my mind, I'm conscious of hurting people's feelings. So I didn't want to turn around and say to him, this isn't working. Can I have another therapist? So I just left, which was the worst thing, because I hit rock bottom again during this third lockdown. And that's when I turned to doing my macrames and stuff.
As a way of therapy.
It just takes my mind off it, really. And it, my family suffer from it. I'm very short. I'm all right 1 minute, and then next minute I'm not. And I'm very conscious of that. But I am conscious that, what happened to me and my dad, it affects my daughter. She's 12 and she's deaf. So they take information differently. Yeah. And they express emotions differently. And that was another thing he diagnosed me with, was an emotional disorder. So whereas if somebody comments a little thing, I couldn't take it off the scale, and it'd break me to the point of no return. Yeah. And then obviously I have to wait for my husband to come home and calm me down.
Talk you down.
And I'm all right again. Yeah. But I'm lucky to have obviously yourself, and I'm close with the other educators where you can talk. And that is the key in this industry. You need nail tech friends. And I know it's daunting, but I've had nail techs approach me and we've become friends through it. Yeah. That, they're not to my level, and I'm glad that they don't see me any different. I'm no different to anybody else. I'm just a nail tech trying to earn a living. Yeah. And I was just lucky enough that a company saw potential in me to teach.
I mean, you've talked there about that sometimes you can be very short. I mean, we've had many conversations where you've expressed that you're worried that people will take you the wrong way because you sound quite abrupt, and you've worried in the past that you sound like you don't care, and that you feel like you're having to explain yourself before you start a conversation with people for the first time. You have to explain that, it's I'm not unfeeling, I'm not uncaring. And I've seen the most huge golden heart of probably any of the people I've met in my entire life. Do you feel it's hard having to explain yourself all the time, that that what they see is not who you are?
Yeah, and obviously, I've had this conversation recently with another educator who was a close friend, and she'll say to me, don't explain yourself, you don't need to explain yourself, that's who you are, be yourself. Yeah. But it's really hard in this industry because everybody is watching. You don't know they're watching you, but they are watching you. And I have had my odd rants and stuff, and I've learned not to get involved, or I do regret the odd thing I may have done. So it's really hard being I don't call it spotlight. You know how I feel about it. I don't feel so any different to anybody else. But my husband reminds me every now and again, you know, I do have people looking up to me, and it's hard. It's hard because you want people to know you're a nice person.
Yeah.
But then
I can 100%
you know, we have
vouch for not just a nice person, an amazing person and a really great friend.
I'm one of them people. I'm like a lioness. I have, if you watch you on me, I have your back.
Yeah.
Completely 110%. But if I've been done wrong, I find it very hard to trust. And that's just to past problems and stuff. But you know, I don't, if I don't want untrustworthy people in my life either.
No.
It's, I have too much drama as it is. I don't need any more negativity. And I don't have friends outside of the nail community because of that.
Yeah.
Like I say, you think your clients see your friends, and then pandemic happens and you realise that not so much. But
do you find it's hard to separate that client nail tech from friend? Because I know when I married my first husband, I invited half of my client base to my first wedding. I only still communicate with just one of them. But do you find it's hard when you consider them a friend if that relationship breaks down?
I think, like, particularly with the pandemic, as the years have gone on, you realise how much of a business it is more than clients. You realise you have to put your prices up. You realise that you can't say to that one person, oh, just give me 20 quid, don't worry about your nail art. Eventually, I think you start realising that if you want your business to progress, you can't treat it that way. And if they are truly your friends, they'll respect you for that, and they'll be willing to pay for it. Like I said, the pandemic, I haven't lost a client. She will be coming back, but it was a real shock that one particular person, because we are friends, I believe, we go out, you know, as couples, but she didn't come back. And at first I felt hurt, but then I had to realize that it isn't personal. She's in, she cares for, you know, vulnerable people, and you have to mentally segment that off. That they can be your friend, but at the same time, your business is first type thing. And I have lost people that have come to me for years, and we were friends, and God, you know, they've took my dog for the day and stuff like that, and then they disappeared for 2 years. You have to realize that there's a reason why, and it's not always you, and you can't take it personal. And you know, I qualified in 2013, 14. It's took me till now to start getting the grasp of that.
I qualified in 1996, and I'm still making all those mistakes. So, and I keep repeating them and keep repeating them. It's the very definition of madness. Just keep repeating, because you think, oh, this client's different, or this situation's different. And I find myself feeling really sorry for people that they come in because, you know, they're treating themselves to the nails. But they're somebody you knew from school, and they're treating them, they haven't spoke to you since you left school in the 80s, and they come and they're like, I'm treating myself because blah blah blah. And I find myself like giving them the things that somebody else would pay another £5 for. I give it them for free, and then I don't hear from them again for 6 months, and I take it personally. And then I just got to remember that it isn't personal. They'd saved up for that one thing. You came in and thought, oh, do you know, poor them, they can't afford it very often, I'll treat them. And they are probably very grateful for it. I think for me, the younger nail techs coming in need to know that, as well as the know your worth thing, because I think they're the things that I've struggled with all the way through my career, knowing my worth, that my level of expertise isn't a £5's worth of nails. It's what I decide it's my time's worth. And how many times do we hear that on the support groups? People saying, oh, I can't charge more in my area. How frustrating is that?
They need to stop doing the area thing. Yes, look at your local area. Like I did it. I did a price increase beginning at last lockdown, and I looked at a couple of local salons, and there were one lady doing, you know, full whack, everything, all in, you know, like I think it was set price of £60 and you get everything, all the nail art. And even I know that I can't charge £60. So you can't always compare yourself to stuff like that. Some people are willing to pay it, some aren't. So you do need to take your area slightly into consideration, because where I do live, you know, it's middle to lower class, if you want to class it. As an example, I couldn't care where people's money come from as long as they pay for the nails. But I always book 2 hours out no matter what, unless obviously they've contacted me and said they want really long nails and really extravagant nail art, and then I book longer and they have to pay for that. But I tend to book 2 hours out because I'm all about quality over quantity. And I think that is where you start building your reputation up, because you're not trying to shove them out the door while one's walking through. I can't work like that anyway. I like to have a breather and start knowing it's a different client, because if not, it's like a conveyor belt.
Just a blur, isn't it? It's just one after the other. Yeah.
But I've learned over the years that as much as I wanted to do the elaborate designs that took longer, sometimes I think I did a set once, I think it was an Avengers set. I bought decals and then she decided she didn't like the decals, she wanted hand painted. And she was a 8 o'clock at night client, so I was there till 10, 11 o'clock. I didn't charge because it weren't planned. And I didn't have the courage to turn around and say, well, you do realise
hand painting's a lot more than decals.
So it's like, you have to, I've learned, and I have said to my clients, look, you need to contact me prior if you want more, and if it doesn't suit your budget, we'll sort it out. So if they want elaborate designs, they know it's like roughly £5 hand painted. I think it was like the flamingo set I did for you. I think it was £10 on top, but that's it. Do you know what I mean? I think I charge you what I would charge any other client, because I still have to earn a living, friend or not. And obviously you understand that.
I wouldn't dare ask you to charge less just because we're friends. It's because the time and skill of, I couldn't possibly paint a hand painted flamingo. So if I want a hand painted flamingo, go to the person that can do it. But you pay for
and
it.
Go live at the same time.
Oh God,
But
scrolling like with my other hand, answering questions on the live.
It's just, I think it's different because we understand it. We understand the difference. Like when I have a tradesperson come to my house, I always try and give them, even if it's just £10-20 more than they ask for, because, and I know it's not expected because they definitely charge their worth. I think a call out for a plumber's 50 quid. I had a plug socket changed because it was setting on fire. It cost me 40 quid. It was 10 minutes. But if I had the money, I normally give them a bit more just to show my appreciation.
You're not paying for that. This is the thing we say in the industry as well all the time, the younger ones, and they say, but it only took, you're not paying for the 10 minutes I was there. You're paying for the X amount of years it has taken me to learn how to do it in 10 minutes.
I must have spent in the last 5 years easily £2,000 on training, and that's probably not even including accommodation.
Just the courses themselves.
Because I did one in down south, and as you know, I don't drive, so my poor husband has to take me, so we decided to make a holiday out of it. You know, we went down for 5 days and I did 5 days one-to-one training. You know, obviously we do the CJP training, you know, and then I've done various other courses with other educators. It's expensive, and I understand you can't put all your costs onto your clients, but you have to put a percentage on. But people have definitely got to start charging the worth. And not only that, then if people are charging not the worth, it's hard for us all to start earning more.
It undervalues the entire industry, doesn't it? If you've got 3 nail techs in a local postcode area only charging a tenner, and then one that knows it's actually going to cost 30 quid with a decent hourly wage, and she comes in trying to charge 30, it's undervalued her work, but she's actually priced herself right, or he's priced themselves right. And it's the others that have undervalued the industry. And I think a lot of the time in a lot of the groups, it sounds like a lot of techs are being harsh on those that are saying, oh, I'm only charging a tenner. We're not trying to be harsh. We're trying to explain to you that we understand your worth. You need to understand your worth, but you also need to understand the implications that you're putting on the rest of the industry by undervaluing your worth. And I think that's an important lesson, that if you can learn it early in your career, it's going to stand you in an awful good stead than trying to still be learning it 20 odd years later, like myself, that still has moments where it lapses. And I can preach it in all the groups. I can be saying to young, oh, sweetheart, you need to understand your worth. You need to understand the devaluation of our industry by you doing this. And then I go out and give out free nail art, and I go out and soak off a set for free. And, you know, just because I feel sorry for somebody. And sometimes you have to just give into your heart. But yeah, as an industry, yeah.
But I used to do that. I never used to charge for a soak off. But then again, I never used to offer it because I hate doing it. I'm like, if you want to take them off,
oh, me too.
You take them off at home.
Yeah.
But I have started offering it because, from a business point of view, because it is probably a good money earner.
Yeah.
And I see people not charging for it. And I'm like, and I get that when I first started, and years ago, and obviously it was an option. I don't think I charged if I were obviously putting nails back on or anything like that. And some still swear by that, but I'm like, it took you 20 minutes to take them off.
Yeah.
So you need to charge at least
for the 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't realise. And same with the nail art. They think, well, when you break the price down, it's probably cost you £1-2 in products, if that. But if it's hand painted, that I think that flamingo that I did on you took 45 minutes.
Yeah. You
need to then sit and work out your hourly wage, and then I round it up. That was 45 minutes. So for me, £10.
It's an hour.
Yeah.
Got to know your worth, guys. Got to know your worth. I can't believe how much we've talked about today. As a friend, it was very difficult for me to ask you to talk about some difficult subjects. And I'm very much worried at the start when if you don't know, guys, we're actually on Zoom. I can see Kerry. Hello, Kerry. And as a friend, it was very difficult for me to ask you to open up about these things, and me not cry too, because you know I'm a crier. And I'm so pleased you opened up today and were the honest self you always are. I'd like to say, Kerry, thank you so much for joining us. And we can't wait to see all the amazing things you're going to do in the future. Guys, if you want to check out some of Kerry's work, book on some of Kerry's courses. You can book on some of her CJP courses through the CJP website. She has numerous Facebook pages, as well as her macrame, Kerry Wright nail artist, and her macrame page. She has an Etsy page, ladies and gentlemen. You can go buy some of her wonderful, and I'm not joking, wonderful Dreamcatcher macrames. And Kerry, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Nailtopia Inside with the Insiders. If you have enjoyed it, you can show me your support by heading over to buymeacoffee.com/Nailtopia, where you can help keep me in Yorkshire tea and savvy bee, enabling me to keep chatting to nail industry insiders with the stories you just need to hear. You can also check out what else Nailtopia is about on both Facebook and Instagram.